Formula One is one of the few sports where the rules can change throughout the season, and this year is no exception. The FIA is hard at work in the background to improve the presentation for the viewers. Some of these discussions concern sprint races, grid penalties, safety cars, and DRS trains. So how much of an effect will the rules have? What will they do differently this time? Here is everything we are aware of at the moment. To begin, no more safety cars across the finish line. According to Auto, Motor und Sport, the virtual safety car could be phased out in the near future. The rule may unfairly favor a driver who happens to be near the pit lane at the moment of the VSC. At the moment, a return to a standard safety car would be preferable. Finishing behind the safety car should always be impossible. Moving on, DRS per second. DRS is an undesirable but necessary component of Formula One at the moment. The cars have difficulty passing each other unless the back wings are opened. As a result, the prospect of altering the system is being considered. For example, it is not out of the question that in the future, DRS will be accessible from the very first lap. Currently, it can only be opened after 2 completed laps. AMUS first offered the idea of putting a time limit on the DRS on its own. The drivers would, after that, be able to deploy the wing for a set amount of time throughout each lap. In that case, it would be similar to the push-to-pass approach currently used in IndyCar. During this race stage, drivers receive an additional 60 horsepower boost for 150 to 200 seconds. Following that, every weekend, there are 2 races and 2 qualifying sessions. Sprint race weekends must also be modified. This will most likely occur in 2024 rather than 2023. F1 wants each day to have a highlight and wants to limit the number of unnecessary practice sessions. As a result, a second qualifying session is being considered. A weekend would then include VT1 on Friday, sprint qualifying on Friday afternoon, Grand Prix qualifying on Saturday morning, and the sprint race later that afternoon. The GP will remain in its existing location on Sunday. Next up, Verstappen thought the strange coronation was quite funny. It marks Verstappen's second contentious title in as many years, though it should be noted that the Dutchman would have won the 2022 title with 4 races remaining this season. Verstappen described his journey to champion as confusing, strange, and pretty amusing. I had no idea what they were going to do with the points, he admitted. Of course, the primary goal was to win the race, but sure, as I crossed the finish line, I was like, okay, that was an incredible race. Again, good points, but no world champion yet. Following the race, I conducted my interview, and then my mechanics started cheering, and I was like, what's going on? Then I realized Checo had taken the place of Charles, but I still wasn't sure if it was whole points, half points, or whatever was 75%. I'm not sure how you do it. The FIA's media delegate informed Verstappen that he was the world champion, but he later stated, suddenly, others were telling me, no, you're still lacking a point. So it was like, oh, that's incredible. That's a little strange, but then we got enough points and became world champions again. Verstappen continued, to be honest, I don't mind that it was a little confusing. I find it hilarious because it won't impact the outcome. Moving forward, explaining an F1 rule discrepancy and a perplexing coronation. Sky Sports F1's Mark Hughes' recent post-race column reflected the sentiments of much of the paddock on a day when F1 did not put on its best performance for various reasons. Looking at the points alone, a curtailed race with full points is not how the new for 2022 rule, enacted in the aftermath of a farcical Belgian Grand Prix last year, was intended. When clarifying the rule in February, the FIA stated that if the leader has completed 50% but less than 75% of the race distance, points will be awarded as follows: 19 points for a winner, 14 points for second place, 12 points for third place, and so on. However, the regulation's words "cannot be resumed" completely precludes its use. Those 3 words were seemingly mistakenly carried over from past iterations of the rule, because the only examples in history were from races that were started and then stopped. Suzuka's race finishing after a nearly 2-hour stoppage, but not completing all of the laps in the 3-hour window was, therefore, a first, and the amended regulation was appropriately implemented, much to the chagrin of pit lane teams. Confusion persists. For example, the way the rule is currently written, 3 laps could have been completed on Sunday, and full points would have been granted. Even if Verstappen is refused on Sunday, this is not the same as last year's dispute. But think if this were the last race. F1 didn't help itself by having unclear rules, which will undoubtedly be adjusted to avoid a Suzuka repeat. Following that, Verstappen. It's a crazy feeling. Verstappen's 12th victory in 18 races this season and 6th in the previous 7 put him 113 points clear in the world title. Verstappen has been in a league of his own in 2022 after going through the most difficult fights with Hamilton last year. While Red Bull gave Verstappen a super fast chassis capable of adapting to the sport's diverse circuits, the Dutchman has driven nearly flawlessly. Verstappen won from the pole for the 4th time this season in Suzuka, with his improved racecraft allowing him to win from farther back on 9 occasions. While Verstappen's crowning moment occurred amid significant turmoil for the 2nd year in a row. Unlike in 2021, there was no doubt whether the proper driver and team had triumphed. Of course, it's a strange sensation, since I didn't expect it when I crossed the line, Verstappen told Sky Sports F1. Of course, you could see it happening, but it's fantastic that we did win it here. Next up, Norris leveled in accusation. Verstappen and Red Bull team principal Christian Horner argued that Norris violated a gentleman's pact among drivers not to overtake on outlaps. Still, the Briton was originally emphatic that the stewards should intervene. When asked if Verstappen attempted to obstruct the overtake, Norris told Sky Sports F1, "I mean, it was fairly evident he tried to do it. There are no restrictions on what you can do, but doing what he did is not one of them. Everyone agrees to it. Gentleman's agreement. Everyone overtakes before the last bend, so it doesn't matter. He probably would have done the same if he was in my place, but I wouldn't have swerved at him if I was in his situation." Norris asked if he expected punishment if he performed what Verstappen did. "Oh yes, for sure." Moving on, after an investigation, Hamilton was given permission to wear a nose stud. Hamilton was involved in a further off-track incident when he was summoned to the stewards due to a stud in his nose. For this season, the FIA restricts drivers from wearing jewelry. Hamilton was sent before the stewards because he was sporting a nose stud. Drivers who wear jewelry risk receiving a fine under the standards. Therefore, Hamilton has been driving without his stud to comply with the rules. On the other hand, the 7-time world champion said that his doctor encouraged him to keep the stud in because it was creating infections in his nose, which he believed were caused by the stud's repeated insertion and removal. After hearing his medical findings, the stewards opted not to take any further action against Hamilton. However, they decided to fine Mercedes €25,000 for wrongly completing his self-scrutiny form. Before his forgiveness was made public, Hamilton stated, "It became infected loads of times, and I was trying to find a solution, and I went back to the doctor, and that is the greatest way for it to recover. From my perspective, it is a health issue. Accordingly, that is how it will be, and we must find a solution." Finally, Horner accepts blame, backs Verstappen to recover. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner revealed to Sky Sports that Verstappen was 1.5 seconds ahead of the pole on his aborted 6th flying lap, and admitted that his crew made an error in monitoring fuel levels. He also trusted Verstappen to capitalize on anticipated wet conditions in one of the calendar's most grueling and unpredictable races. "It was our fault," Horner admitted. "With the track heating up, we figured 5 circuits would be the most we could achieve, but we managed to win the 6th lap. We decided to abandon the lap because the fuel would be too close to the limit, rather than beginning from the pit lane, which was highly disappointing to Max and the entire team. It drops him to 7th place, but that's better than starting from the pit lane. With our speed, I'm confident we can make significant progress from here. The course structure here makes life more difficult, but as we've seen with these cars this year, you can overtake them. You can improve. And one thing we can count on from Max is that he will give it his all. It's a difficult race, the longest and most difficult of the year. The weather may also do something interesting, so there will be plenty of opportunity." Well, that marks the end of our video for today. We hope you enjoyed it. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.